Hello everybody, it's the 25th of August 2014 and we are doing the last in section 2 of the TROM series, which is Death and Limitation. Not quite Aiden says, but okay, that's my bad. We're doing Death and Limitation besides. I'm Joe, I've got with me today, I've got Aiden Fry, I've got Mick Afella 85, and we've got William with us as well, who's having technical difficulties with his microphone. But we'll make do with what we've got. We'll start with Death, since it's first before Limitation, of course. So not many of us have got notes on Death, we have to admit, but Aiden's made some notes, so we're going to go straight to Aiden to kick us off.
Yeah, sure. It was a pretty cool video, I thought. I don't know about you guys. It went through a lot of things. I think the first point that it kind of made was, it's kind of, why are we all so scared of death, or the idea is taboo. Really. We don't really talk about it so much in our culture, and it's just, it kind of started off with why, and I'm not sure they really covered it, but they kind of said that worrying about death is a motivator. It sells things. So, like, you can sell Bibles based on fear of the afterlife, that kind of stuff. And it goes all the way through into more modern spiritual healing, things like that. Which is is interesting, but I don't exactly know why it's so taboo in our culture. Does anyone really have a thought?
Me personally, I'm not kind of really afraid of death. I think from experiencing the things in my childhood, there were quite a few deaths, like personal deaths, and I thought, I've always wondered what's after death, and I don't want to die because there's a million things I want to do, but if I did die, I'd think, well, it's like I'm not going to live forever, or at least as far as I know for now, there's no chance of me living forever, I'm going to die at some point, and I'll get to see if there is anything. If there isn't anything, then I won't know. So, I'm not worried about that. I suppose I'm afraid of the way that I might die. If it was going to be some sort of slow, painful, fiery death. But the actual being dead, I'm not worried about.
I think it's the unknown, isn't it, that scares people in today's society anyway. Not knowing what's next. Like, is there something? Like, obviously nobody will ever be able to come back and let us know, but is there anything after this, or is it, we shut down, a brainstem dies, and then that's it? But I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because you almost think that can't be it. I can't just be completely wiped from the face of the earth completely in split seconds. Myself is no more. It's hard to think like that. I think that's what scares a lot of people. Although Mick is very brave in not fearing death, I fear death completely. I must admit. I've thought many times that, what is next? It's hard to think like that. It's just, I know, it's a difficult subject for me.
No, that's cool. I think you kind of point on something they kind of say a little bit later, which is like, when are you dead? What makes they're trying to say, like, what specifically in you makes you, and when that dies, does you die, or and all this kind of stuff. It's very interesting. It kind of boils down to, what are you? And it's a very hard thing to answer. I'm not sure we can come to an answer too much, because I am my finger, but then when my finger gets chopped off, it's no longer my finger, but then you can get like phantom fingers and all this kind of crazy stuff where your brain's overreacting, and then I don't know, like, which parts of you dies when you die? Are people who are, I don't know what the real term is to say, vegetables? Are they still alive properly? Like, what counts as all this? It's very hard. And I think probably this kind of ties into why it's a bit of a taboo, because it's not a definite you can say about. And it obviously, I think that with death, is that it affects the people left behind more than the person who's gone. And so whenever you're talking to people about death, you're not talking to the person who's already dead and gone through it. You're talking to the person who's left behind with, I don't know, a bunch of kids or half a mortgage or whatever situation they're in. And so you end up talking to them, really catering to them more than the person who was dead. I think there was a little bit of that with, because it was a bit strange for me. No one that I knew, like directly, no one in my family or anything died until I was about 21, and my granddad died, and I could see that kind of a fair way off, and I was fairly prepared for it. I wasn't expecting actually to just turn up at the hospital one day and he died like 5 minutes into it, and that was a bit of a shock. But and it was just very interesting how I dealt with that, and the way that you talked about it afterwards with people. You use like synonyms instead of saying dying, so you passed away and stuff. And it's more to do with like talking to my grandma. I was trying to make it easier for her so much, not necessarily straight on the truth. I don't know if where this is even going anymore.
Well, there's, you know, the part about what you said about which part of us is dead, or like how much of us is dead. Like they said clinically dead was when the part of your brain, I forgot which part of your brain.
The brain stem, I think.
The brain stem, yeah. When that's no longer working, that's when clinically dead. But I like what George Carlin says, which is another reason like I'm not worried about when I die, because like we came from stardust before the planet was here, then like we're gonna rot back into the earth or be burned, or I don't know, like decay in some form eventually back into the earth, and then be shot out into the stars again when the sun goes supernova, etc. So we're gonna become, I don't know, we're infinitely here, even if, I mean, there's those things that you can put your ashes in a tree or something, tree seed, grow a seed from your ashes, so then you'd become the tree. I like ideas like that. I think it's helpful with ideas like that, so that when somebody dies, you can say, well, they're not actually completely gone. I don't know, they're a tree now. You know what I mean? Like not officially reincarnated with all the personality, but at least, I don't know, they're part of that tree that used to be somebody I know.
Yeah, it's a comforting fact, isn't it, that if when you die, you can almost turn someone's ashes into like another physical reminder of them.
Yeah.
And when my little brother died years ago, I was only young myself. We planted 2 trees for him, not to do with his ashes or anything like that, but just like as a physical remembrance. Like this is his tree, and you kind of take care of almost him by taking care of this tree that has no actual bond with you. It's just a tree, but you kind of relate that to him. In terms of it being Clinton and what have you, I remember I don't know if I read or saw somewhere, or I was told even that there's obviously you're made up of trillion, billion of whatever atoms, and there's an equation to say that something stupid like 50 million atoms that form you have been through Alexander the Great, they've been through Picasso, they've been through everybody. So it's weird that technically they're not actually dead. I suppose like they're atoms that have lived on and then moved on to other things. Strange to think like that when you die, that thousands of years from now you'll be still around in atom form, I guess, or you'll be part of that atom anyway. I thought that was strange. I'll have to see if I can find that, but I'm not sure. Where I found that, to be honest.
Something I've always found strange is that when people die, and the first thing that gets on, like, makes me angry is that like churches, etc. They make money from it. You know what I mean? You've got to pay somebody to go and say something. And I think that's I don't know. Everybody's going to die, so they're just reaping a benefit from it. But the headstones, you know, like you've got to pay for a plot, you've got to pay for a headstone, and yet, like, I'll never go to the headstones of my family members to remember them. They're inside my head. I've got photos and memories. I don't need the stone, but because of tradition, uh, we're made to think that we need to get to do all this to remember this person by, and that every year we need to go and buy some flowers and put them on that grave. And I'm sorry, but that to me just, I don't know, it never did anything for me.
It's definitely a scheme. It's a money-making scheme, isn't it? Like you say, they're profiting off people dying, which is just
Yeah.
it's just not right. Like I don't know, but it's kind of it's set into this culture now, isn't it? Where, like you say, my nana, for example, she goes once every 2 weeks with a fresh pair of flowers and toys and what have you. It's, I mean, as much as I love my nana, it's such a waste of money.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, it's an awful thing to say, but it's another way for people to make money off it, I guess.
It's all tied in. It's the interesting.
I don't know where you've gone. I don't know where you've gone, but you've gone.
Has Aiden disconnected, has he?
Oh no, we've got picture back. Oh no, well, we've got it.
I think he's completely died, man. He's gone. On the topic of death, Aiden has died on Google Plus. Yeah, I mean, I always think that death's a difficult subject to discuss, no matter who you discuss it with, because everybody's got such a different opinion on death. I mean, if you've had more family casualties, oh my God, he's back already. Oh, hello, Aiden. You've moved position. I'll let you carry on, my friend. We lost you halfway through that.
Yeah. I guess there's just an interesting thing with death in the church is that it really should be a good thing, right? From their point of view, you're going off all this kind of stuff. If people really believe in it, I don't know. That's not really a good point. What I was going to say more is that it kind of leads to what we were saying about all the atoms and stuff going through everyone, and like, you know, most of your cells regenerate over your life. You're not even the same collection of cells after a couple months. So, but what seems to be is it's the pattern which is yourself, this overall pattern. Where they talk about, they kind of mention about how the brain is an orchestra, which I really like. This is an analogy. It all combines together and to form a kind of pattern. Where things are going in and out and everything's changing and updating, but the pattern is continuous. And that seems to me to be the closest thing to what I am, which is a statement of an ongoing pattern. And so, and basically death is, from that point of view, the cessation of regeneration of that pattern to gently melt away.
I think
Ray Kurzweil talks about
what you said earlier, Aidan, about is death is more a problem for the people that are still alive than the person that's dying. I think that's it's a hard thing to understand, that missing that pattern, missing that person's that person just being in your life. It's like it's not normal anymore. It's strange. I think that's one of the hardest things.
Yeah, I think what I fear most about death in general, just based on fear, if we go back to that topic very quickly, I discussed this at length with a partner, is when I read a book when we were on holiday. This is a really soppy story, so bear with me. But we read a book. I can't remember what it was called. Can't remember what it was called for the life of me. But basically they get together after however long, and the woman developed Alzheimer's, and she can't remember him. And that is what, when you've aged and you kind of you get into the stage of natural death, if I can put it like that. I fear that the most, if we get to that kind of age and either I forget her or she forgets me. I don't think I'd be able to deal with that if she forgot me. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of soppy, but that's what I really, really fear when it gets down to it, is if someone actually forgot you from Alzheimer's. I think that'd be Robot and Frank. Is that what it's called?
There's a film called Robot and Frank. It's worth a watch because there's a bit of futurism in it. It's not nothing special, like, but it's along those lines, but with a bit of technology.
Fair enough. Can't beat a bit of technology. Is there anything else you've had wrote down, Aidan?
I guess, yeah, one of the points I was trying to get at earlier, but got distracted, is that, so I was actually present for my granddad's death. It's the first time I'd ever seen a real death, even through TV. I don't think I'd seen a proper death, like a non-sensationalized, like just corpse on the floor in the middle of a war zone, or just an actual normal death. And what I really liked from that video was when you followed that German guy, I think he was German, who's lived in Ireland, and his death.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting to see a non-sensationalized death on TV. And I think I could have done with that to actually prepare me to see what I saw. You know what I mean? I was a bit of a state for a month. Like, I wasn't like crazy, because I was just like, I was pretty unprepared for exactly what actually happened in real life. Not like the nurse sitting there and it goes beep beep, and just like, I just think there should be some more of that. It was good.
Yeah, I think again it's something strange that we're not used to see somebody die, because most of the time we're alive, everybody's fine. It's just the small time that, well, those very rare moments where somebody will die. But as well, like when it comes to things like war, I think that's why it fucks so many people up, because instead of most of the time everybody being alive, most of the time people are having legs blown off, or dying in front of them that they're not used to seeing. So another reason we shouldn't go to war.
Yeah, it's like rationalizing death, isn't it? It's like, if you're not used to, it's like switching culture, isn't it? You're not used to death, and then you're thrown into somewhere that you look to your left, you look to your right, there's your mates on the floor, blown to pieces, or whatever it is. Just death everywhere, and people are so traumatized by it. And we don't even have to be reminded of the amount of people, veterans from Vietnam, that killed themselves, that died in the war itself. From people just traumatized, just in general, about death. I had a point, but I've lost it, which is never good. But I guess we can move on to a different point if we have one, or we can go on to limitation if no one else has anything.
I've got a few more. One, I guess, is the life extension stuff he was talking about. And there's whole Facebook groups that you'll find out there called like indefinite life extension, these kind of groups. I'm just kind of wondering the challenges that you guys see with this stuff. Say the technology is there, but one of the things they mentioned in the stuff is that providing it to everybody is a major problem. You can't just have a rich ruling elite that live forever and everyone else is dying off at the age of 40.
I've already, I haven't solved this problem. I've thought of an idea. Say it's with nanotechnology that we can live forever, and there's a lot of people as well that I've spoken to that don't want to live forever. You know what I mean? They want to die a long day. But And this is like an idealistic world, an idealistic thought, where say we get to a resource-based economy and those who choose to live forever can live forever, then I'm hoping we'd be solving problems and exploring things that we've not explored. So the people that are living forever would be able to jump on a spaceship and start like mapping out the universe for possible other worlds to colonize, which could mean like the tech. I think it's 40,000 light years, something stupid like that, to send data back to Earth before the sun blows up anyway, for them to find another place to live and go in cryostasis or whatever to get there, or you know what I mean. So that the people that become immortal would be the ones that have to leave to find the next place. Which, to be fair, if it was me, I'd think that's awesome because I get to explore, I get to find the new things, and help people when I found them. But just an idea.
It's an interesting way of thinking about it. So you're saying you need to send the rich people off that can live forever to explore.
Yeah. Well, those that have got with great power becomes great responsibility. The Spider-Man quote.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Well, there's another problem that I see with possibly with life extension. Well, one of the main things that people will say is, you know, what happens to overpopulation and that kind of stuff. Which we all know, if we design the world better, we could go and survive a whole load of new people. The thing that I possibly worry about with life extension is generally there's a trend of change where the old people resist and the young people push forwards, and we kind of wait for the old people to die, and then we get a little step ahead before the next generation decide that's enough. And if like say people were of like the kind of powerful class today, but like the people who are like, you know, the 50s and 60s who have got real control kind of today because they worked themselves into that position, if they then don't fall by the wayside and don't, we have a lot of people are thinking the Venus Project kind of go, you know, we'll let all the old people die, their problems will get a bit worse, and then the young people will come along and fix it. They could be around for a long time. We can't be relying on old people dying. So I think we're going to have to get very good at changing the minds of old people.
Yeah, I think the idea that you can't teach an old dog new tricks is wrong, but I think it does take a lot longer. Just me and languages is one example. When I was younger, I was a lot better than I am now.
Would it be fair to say that our culture has had longer to kind of press its ideas into the mind, so it's, you know, it's almost like deeply. What kind of word is that? It's almost programmed deeper into the system. It's even harder for them to almost remove it. A bit like a virus on a computer. The longer you leave it, it's the harder it is to get out, I suppose.
But not impossible.
But not impossible. You take it to the right person, and they'll get the virus at the computer for you. So I like to think we're the right people to show people the way. I mean, I've tried many a time to explain TVP and RP to my grandparents, and although they like the idea, they don't think it's possible. So, but you know, that's the general consensus when you tell people anyway, isn't it, that they don't think, they like the idea, but not possible. But I mean, that's kind of generally what gets to me anyway.
There seems to be a pretty natural reaction from anyone, from anywhere. I guess we could do a longer term survey into whether old people have different views on the Venus Project than younger people.
I'm struggling to hear you, Ian. I don't know if anyone else is having the same problem.
It's a little bit quiet.
It's always pretty bad on this tablet. Right. I got one more question on death. What is
euthanasia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you guys reckon? Would that be allowed?
To me, I think to myself, if somebody wants to die, let them die. If they in such a mental state that, oh, saying that, the euthanasia roller coaster is the only reason I say this, and because like in a resource-based economy, why would you want to die? But I mean, like because in this society, in certain parts of my life, I've thought to myself, it'd be a lot easier if I died. You know what I mean? If I was in a wheelchair, um, just if I was a cabbage, if I was just laid there and could not even speak, I could just see people and hear people and never respond. I suppose I would tell them that I wanted to die. Like the euthanasia roller coaster. Has anybody seen? It's just designed. I don't think it's been built, but a guy designed it so that the centrifuge that they send people around to train them for pilots that knocks them unconscious. Well, the roller coaster does that and then kills them. And I thought to myself, I think there's been stories where people have killed their disabled person that they were looking after because that disabled person just said, look, I cannot do anything in this life. There's no use me being here. I hate my life. Do it, you know what I mean? So bang them on the roller coaster and let them go if they want to go. But like I said, I can't see anybody wanting to die in a resource-based economy. But I mean, why waste resources if they want to go? That's, you know what I mean? I think it's their decision. Give them like a million options, or like try and talk to them. Give them as much mental help as possible first. But then if they still say no, I just want to go, let them go.
So when we had the chat in about, I don't know if you remember, it was a couple of weeks ago about crime and jails and that kind of stuff, and we talked about rehabilitation. I think it would go. I'd hope it go down a similar road to trying to, like you said, mate, trying to talk these people around, trying to get to the bottom of, why do you actually want to die? What's the root cause? If by the end of, I don't know, say like a couple of weeks of rehabilitation and talking about it, etc., etc., if nothing can come of it, and they still, the end goal is they just want to be dead. You know, who are we to stop people wanting to die? I mean, if you want to die, surely you can die. At the end of the day, it's your life, I suppose, and do what you want with your life.
There was something as well I saw about depression. They'd got a woman that was is it manic depression? And they did something with the brain where they could just flick a switch, and suddenly she'd be happy again. So if we've got that sort of technology, I'm not sure people would be like that, but you never know.
Well, so if you end up with like indefinite life as a possibility, then how else are people going to die?
Oh yeah. Good point.
Into some of the ridiculous sci-fi that I read, but they just over their generations have come to around 300 to 400 years. That's the average that people kind of live. When they die, they just catapult them into the nearest sun. That can then disperse their atoms into. And I was just like, that sounds cool.
I wouldn't want to die. I'd want to, like a off switch, so that like if ever somebody found me wherever I was, like exploring the universe, and they could just switch me back on, I'd be like, oh yeah, what else is there to learn?
That's cool.
Fair enough. Good point.
I'll just share with you guys. There was a cool GIF or GIF, whatever they're called, where it was like, why is suicide illegal? Because the government owns you, or something like that. Property of the government, and it kind of is like that. If you get down to the Venus Project and there's no property, there's no law, then it kind of gets into, well, there's no way to stop anyone if they want to. Say, you provide a facility where they can do it safely and painlessly, rather than jumping out in front of trains and buses and stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess like a facility where you can go and almost get killed would especially if it was painless. You know, if they got to the stage where, you know, there was no other alternative, they just wanted to die. Having a facility for it would be best, but then it'd be like housing cows almost. If well, I hope not many people would like to die, but people just waiting. But anyway,
I've got to say the euthanasia.
Sorry, mate.
I was going to say the euthanasia roller coaster looks so awesome. Like you'd want to get on and live just to go like, this one's the best roller coaster ever.
yeah, and then just death.
Yeah.
You were going to make a point, Aidan, or you lost it?
Well, you start kind of delving into really the murky side of this. Is do you let a toddler who's decided that they want to die kill themselves? Do you let someone
I think
take their own lives? And do you let the sole inventor of something that's really key and important decide to kill themselves when they haven't transferred that information to anyone else
yet? When it comes to kids, I'd just say like until they're 25 years old and the frontal cortex is not fully formed. You know what I mean? They're not allowed.
That's interesting. That's good. Based on biology, so I'll take that.
That's when you get into the very difficult questions, isn't it?
Yeah.
You start to ask the hard questions.
Yeah, and I'm not saying we have to have answers now. I'm just saying these questions are there. You might come across them.
Quite frankly, I wouldn't even know how to go about answering it. So difficult.
That's the way. That's the way to answer. I don't know.
This is it. Are we good to move to limitation, or have we got another point on death?
No, apart from just quickly when they were talking about aging, the top reason why everyone dies is heart disease. Heart disease is very massively affected by chronic stress, which is a big part of day to day. So obviously, if we start dealing with that in the Venus Project, start sorting out less stressful environments, then that's going to be a very good way to battle off some aspects of aging. And I think before we even really make any real medical breakthroughs, that can push up the average age limit just by changing the stress levels in our environment. You know, giving everyone good food, all this kind of stuff. Then, as you kind of showed, that the actual average lifespan is a bit of a misnomer. It's just a statistic, but you know, if we have a ton of 1-year-olds dying, then the age goes right down. If you get rid of those, then it goes up. But that doesn't mean that people are actually living long or have the capacity to live long. Just statistically, people are.
Or removing work, or making work less of a long day, shall we say? I think that would drop, you know, stress dramatically. I mean, the most time people are stressed is when they're at work, or you know, they get home and they're thinking about work, and you're like, I hate my job, or whatever else you do. Obviously, there's other stress in the environment we live in today, whether it be family or death, since we're on that subject.
Poverty is one of the big stresses.
Poverty, yeah.
I can tell you, since going part-time, my life has been a lot less stressful. There still are stresses there, like as council women and etc. But just having 50% less shit at work is just phenomenally nice.
Yeah, that's exactly right. As soon as you remove money, done.
Yeah.
Most of the stress will disappear because you don't have to worry about getting clean water, clean food, clean water, good food. You know, just everything will go because you don't have that little piece of paper in your hand that dictates what you can and cannot get. I mean, that removes everything, doesn't it? So
it's not just removal of money; it's putting in place or guaranteeing nutritional and whatever income.
Yeah.
Guaranteeing a standard of living. And I know this is just semantics, but people very often say, moneyless. There's a whole group called the moneyless world. They're talking about resource-based economy, but it's not moneyless. It's a system that's been built to guarantee the economy. That's what the economy is. The amount that you have access to everything you need. Moneyless to me, and what I fear to most people, means barter system.
Oh yeah.
But that's just a semantic answer. Moving on. I don't have anything more on that.
Fantastic. I don't have any points on that. I've just gone on what you've gone off. So in fact, we talked about it for 40 minutes, so just your points alone, Aidan, filled the gap. So we'll move to limitation then. I made a couple of points, but if anyone else has any points, feel free to start. I'm just trying to get mine up. I'll jump on first then. I've wrote down on the question sheet. Actually, I don't know if you have hold of this sheet. Let me just link you. Just thinking about it. There you go. I just quickly copied and pasted some of the things I put down in Word. There was Neil deGrasse Tyson was on again, favourite dude, and he was saying he said a very good point that not many medical discoveries are made by medical people, should we say, just in general. So medical scientists and everything else. But he was saying that, for example, the machines in the hospital aren't necessarily designed by anyone with any kind of medical experience, but they're designed by physicists and engineers, what have you. So I thought that was interesting, that although they've come down to a medical purpose, they are not necessarily made by anyone with kind of medical experience. They were kind of knockoffs from physicists and then developed into what they are by engineers and what have you. He was saying from that, so you can't really fund the medical sector without funding, the whole kind of scientific field in general, as science bounces off each other, so to speak. But I thought it was a good point. But then it made me think, well, if we're finding it hard to invest money into one scientific arm, so to speak, then is it not going to be even harder to invest into science as a whole?
I think that comes back to just the fucking messed up way the system's run right now. We've got the money to spend on war and guns to shoot people with, when really if we spent that same amount of money on feeding people and helping people, there'd be nobody touching. So if we can stop spending all this money on killing people and blowing things up, there'd probably be a lot less people to look after in hospitals. But just then be able to work on putting the money towards scientific research that could cure diseases eventually.
It's a point of removing the money, isn't it? Exactly the topic, isn't it? If you remove the limitation that money is, then you've got plentiful resources to spend on these things. They're not going to cost anything. Another point that was made on the limitation was people's reluctance to invest. So definitely things like public and private, mainly private, that they're wanting a return. They want a return on their investment more or less instantly, otherwise it's not worth an investment. It does benefit mankind considerably. They're still looking for the pay. They're still looking for that paycheck to come back. They're looking for the investment, which is sickening, really. But again, it then boils down to the community, the society we live in today. It's just everything's about money, which limits us to do what we need to do. So it ties in quite nicely.
I think what limits me the most is when it comes to time. Like, uh, to be fair, the job I've got, I know I'm on about it a lot. I wouldn't mind doing the job that I'm doing now for like 5 hours a week, and then the rest of the time through the week I could be spending helping other people out or solving other problems. So the another limitation is time as well as money
Do
and
you think?
travel.
Say again.
And travel is a limitation because of money. We can't travel to another culture that if we stay there for a long time, we might understand why they do things the way they do. You know what I mean? And then that'll help build bridges. Or if we were all traveling the world, um, or had time to travel the world and then come back home to get a job, you know what I mean? If we're going on maglev trains that like take an hour to get from here to North America, then I think would be a lot. And I think we talked about this in one of the past meetings about more, the more parents look after a child, the more things the child gets to learn about. So the more places we travel, the more things we learn about, the more knowledgeable we are. The benefits not just us, the people around us when we get back home or when we get to the workplace.
I say that's another big. Excuse me. That's another big limitation in travel, like you say. But even in this society where it's all dependent on money and everything else, I'm surprised there isn't a way to travel faster than there is now. To say the technology is readily available, although yes, it's expensive in a monetary system, it would benefit the capitalist system as it is. It would be able to create more cash. For example, if I wanted a job, I don't know, if I wanted somewhere to work where you live, Mick, not that far from me really, but getting there is a problem. But if there was something in place in today's society where I could get there in under 30 minutes, I don't see any reason for me not trying to work there. It's only like me trying to walk from here to my town centre. So I'm surprised really that the society that we live in today hasn't developed or practiced anything that we can travel faster with. Just purely on the basis of it would be beneficial monetary wise. But yeah.
Probably from that point of view is that the culture is.
Are you talking?
Yeah. Hello. Is that better?
Still quiet.
I can hear you fine now.
Oh, sorry. You might be me. It might be me.
Okay. Oh god. I guess the culture up until now, we've been very reluctant to give over to machines, and to go any faster would mean basically giving over to machines. Bit more of the control, because as you're moving, that's why airplanes are basically done by computers, because they can react faster and take in much more variables, which kind of comes with going a lot faster. I don't know. I don't think we. Well, yes, obviously better transport would be better, but as well, there should be housing wherever. I think, like, if I get a job near you, Meg, then there should be a house there or somewhere as part of the responsibility to the job. I think to set me up, and so then you can actually have workers living in the same building, maybe as the place. You can take advantage of not having normal hours, allowing people to come in and out and do their work whenever, that kind of stuff.
Aidan, can I butt in?
Yep.
Neither of them two can hear you speak. I'm the only one that can hear you speak for some reason.
Okay. I'll shut up, it's fine.
No, you're making complete sense. I just don't know if I'll be able to reiterate everything that you just said. I can't remember all of it.
I think instead of worrying about faster travel, well, that'll come, but make housing available where people need to be.
Okay. Right, so basically what Aidan's saying is if you have a job where you live, Mick, that Aiden can get to, then he should have a house there. He should be put up there. Is that what you're saying, Aiden?
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much. Right. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense too, right? What about this as well? Like, in a resource-based economy, I'm hoping the idea would be that if you wanted to move to, like, say, Thailand and live there, then somebody that wanted to move to England might be able to just swap with you, or like you write it, you just explain that. Well, type that into the computer that you wanted to get to Thailand and work there or live there for a certain amount of time, and then when the opportunity arose, it would inform you, and then you travel. I think that'd be pretty cool.
I don't see that why something like that wouldn't be in place. I mean, they do that. They kind of do that now with council houses, do they not? You can swap council houses if you wish.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know of people that have done that and are trying to do that. It's kind of the same thing, but like a worldwide thing. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Be interesting. I'd quite like to live in Thailand for like 6 months and then move back without any cost. That's well, yeah, but still, you could swap jobs as well.
I like to keep going around the world, not just Thailand and back to England.
And there's a language barrier, isn't there? But then, even with yeah, but I was thinking even with today's technology, there's stuff that can convert what you're saying in English to like Chinese or Spanish or whatever. I'm sure there'll be something even more advanced or something that's been worked upon. Another point I had wrote down very quickly was right at the end of the limitation. It was a noisy Aiden as he moved his mic. It said that humans are motivated by the purpose of work, but improving society is probably the best thing to work towards. You know, as humans, as human beings. So essentially, what's the problem? That's what it was asking at the very end. It kind of just, food for thought, really. I mean, are people unwilling to help, or I mean, what is the problem? What do you think the root problem is?
Again, I'd say it's money, because people think that things are only around money. Like it's like when you're trying to explain a world without money, nobody can comprehend it. Like nobody can think outside the box. Well, there's nobody. A lot of people struggle to think outside of the box. They seem to not be able to see any world working without money. Like, oh, you can't do that. You can't take away the money. And you think, I think to myself, well, money's older than the Bible, and you don't use the Bible. Your grandma might use the Bible, but you don't use the Bible. And like, you've survived. So surely, without the money, like people say, money makes the world go round. It doesn't make the earth spin. It doesn't make crops grow. It doesn't make livestock breed. It doesn't make rivers flow, etc., etc. It doesn't make electricity any less free from the sun. So the things would still work. And I forgot what I was going with. What was the question again at the end of the thing, Joe?
Why are people unwilling to help? What's the problem?
Yeah, so I think the problem is that they can't grasp that if they help other people, they're helping themselves. It's just, I suppose it's bred in as a new value that, an old value that if you don't get money for it, don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, you see it in your workplace probably more often than not. I know I do it at my place. Say again?
Is it fighting over bonus?
Yeah, stuff like that. I mean, people are always fighting over. Well, people are always fighting over money, regardless. But my camera's turned off.
No.
Fear of the unknown. Yeah, that's the thing, really. Yeah, it's a good point actually. If people if people don't know, I mean, there's no actual. I don't want to say there's no evidence, but there's no physical. There's not a physical model, so to speak, of the Venus Project in action. But when this first city comes to be, whenever it is, whenever it's tested, and people can see what it's like, so hopefully the idea is then people will see the benefit. And hopefully, you know, move towards that as a collective. But fear of the unknown is a massive point. I mean,
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
and then
That's another limitation, really, isn't it?
yeah, it limits you massively if you don't have the tools to show someone properly what it can be like. That is a massive problem. I'm not even sure. I mean, the new film is going to be a lot more animated, is it not? So hopefully they can create something there. I mean, it's still not a physical thing, but hopefully that can show people a bit more in detail of what it'd be like. I'm interested in seeing what it'll be like properly, but I find it funny, Mick, that people like us guys here, that you can be that passionate about something, you forgot what the original question was, and you just started going off on a rant, which was funny. But it's nice to see people so passionate, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I think another thing as well, when we're trying to explain this to people, a lot of the time, maybe it's the way we're wording it, but people expect it to be a utopia and perfection.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, who said that? Like, I never said utopia, I never said perfection. That's impossible. And you have to try and get across to them that, like, it's just an improvement wherever and whenever we can improve society, and prove that it will improve society. We test it and then do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it did take me a while to understand that. Actually, come on.
I think it's people's willingness to really get involved and, you know, look it up and read into it, watch the videos, etc. Getting people past that stage is the hardest thing, I think. Getting
Well, that
people
was
to.
something else. Like, I thought to myself, like, there's one guy, he said that because the Venus project hadn't been tested and had not been proved that it would be viable, then we shouldn't try doing it because it might make a problem. And I thought to myself, the guy worked on a hand-on collider, and if they're going to build a hadron collider that I think didn't work when they first did it, like, so going on that theory, we shouldn't make anything that won't work to start with. Then we wouldn't make anything at all. So I feel like people's worry about something not working first time perfectly is another limit on their mindset, I suppose.
Yeah, there's the famous, not quote, but famous. What is it? What's the word I'm looking for? Famous analogy of when they were trying to make the light bulb. It was different chemicals he was just pretty much shoving together. Some of it created light, and he put some glass over it, so it wasn't as bright or whatever it was. I mean, he didn't do that on purpose. He didn't know that was going to work. But here we are, and there's a light above my head, thanks to the genius. So you never know, you know, what's going to actually work and what isn't. So I don't know. I honestly believe the hardest part of getting this to work is getting people to read about it and research it and try to imagine it, because it's such a difficult thing for people in our society to look into. Like William said, I keep looking at your comment. It's fear of the unknown. It really is. People don't know what this will be like. As much as we can tell them that it'll be an improvement, it's still hard for people to think that there's anything other than a monetary system, because that's all we know. That's all we've ever known. So maybe it's a limit on the mind. We can't think about it in the way that we need to think about it. I'm just scrolling through the points I made earlier. I think we've more or less covered everything. Just a point that we all know, but something that might be worth mentioning, that technology is mainly always available. The resources are always available, but if the money is not, then there's nothing we can trade for the resources. So it's not available to us, even though everything that makes up whatever it is we're trying to get is available. We can't get it because we don't have enough money, which is obviously the biggest limitation of the monetary system. But also its maker. So I thought that was a a relevant thing to put into this. I don't know if anyone else has any points to make. Oh, there we go. William's typing. This is my. I think that's the idea, William. I think he's designing a. I don't know if he's designing a city or if the plan is to create a city or a town or whatever and have people try it. I don't know if you know anything about that, Aidan. I don't know if that's the general plan.
They are going to do a test city, I believe, and then once the test city is in place, obviously work out all the kinks and then change the world.
With a bit of luck. I can't hear you, Aidan. I don't know if them two can hear you.
No, but I was muted.
Oh.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, Aidan. I think William can because he's laughing, so. Good
Cool.
times.
What was the question? Sorry, I can't see it.
Basically, William was saying that we should have a town or a city to showcase the Venus project in a sense. I was just saying I think this is something in the pipeline, but I wasn't sure. I was just looking to you to shed some light.
Yeah. Well, let's see. If you want to know about this, go and look on the website under the aims and proposals section. That outlines very clearly where the steps they want to take. And yeah, one of the steps is an experimental test city, which would be done, yes, as a kind of showcase to the world, but also not quite be a proper city, as in it will generally be filled with technicians, not so much lay people, who are working to build the next city build to the designs. It's not going to be a first city where we just set it up and 100,000 lucky whatever nation of people from around the world all get invited there and get thrown in. It's not going to be like that. Does that make sense? But yeah, the people would be brought there, taught about the whole idea. It will be a showcase. He has talked about as well doing a theme park along similar lines to get people into the whole idea of it. Kind of similar, I believe, to Epcot, supposedly, which I don't know if this was just Jacques bullshitting, but I saw a very old video where he goes like, Disney saw my designs and then he made Epcot, and they're basically my designs. Because if you look at it, it's kind of similar. There is a certain similarity with the way that underground network of things, all that kind of stuff. It was pretty cool. But yeah, the aims and proposals tab on the website is for where to look for real information about that.
A theme park kind of idea would be, I think it'd be beneficial because that would be the showcase then, wouldn't it? Instead of having this experimental city full of technicians and engineers and what have you, having somewhere to show all these ideas. There's a project going on, or has gone on, in Slovenia, I think. Has it just gone where they've set up like a pedestrian footbridge and they showcase Jacques' work either side, basically showing off the Venus project and what have you. That's just happened. I need to get in contact with Sue actually, see what the feedback was on that. But that would be like more or less like a large scale. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with what's actually being proposed. I'm pretty sure it's in the aims and proposals. I remember kind of reading over it when I first went through and really memorized all the stuff that's in there, and obviously some of it slipped.
Naturally.
It was film Test City, and then is it that? Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah, I
it's
believe
film
so.
Test City.
Yeah, the film, the major motion picture is sooner in their line of stages. It's kind of the next real big stage that they have outlined, and that will start to introduce the ideas to people, get them into, the whole idea of the city, and start basically putting agents out into the culture which are trying to influence it towards the Venus Project, rather than just in the same way all the Terminator films influence people away from technology and stuff like that.
Something with a decent spin on.
Yeah, and the idea with the film would be that it will be set within a resource-based economy. Give people. It wouldn't be another documentary about Jacques and about today. It's about, we're already there. This is how people live, and then probably as you go through it, we'll look back to how people got there. But it's, from what I understand, is you're initially immersed in it, and there's a story within there that's going on. If any of you guys haven't heard about it before, there's a really cool. It is a children's book, but it's more for like teenage boys probably. Called The Rings of Venus. I can't remember who. Someone who is a proper writer, you know what I mean? And they collaborated with Jacques and Roxanne to create a very, very cool story about this 12, 13-year-old kid whose father decides to just pick them up and move them into the experimental city. And he's like, just like, what's going on? And going around, and then I don't know, it gets a bit cheesy, and it's a bit naive in terms of, the kid saves the day and stuff like that. But so some of the ideas were not well thought out, I guess, towards the end, just because they needed to make it wrap up and finish. But it was probably, I think, the best thing that I've seen, including Paradise of Live and all this kind of stuff, to really get an idea of what it would be like to live there. So they don't really talk about, a restaurant where the table center just comes up with all food that's already pre-specified to you. If you want to override it and order something else, you can, but this stuff is made for your taste. It's very healthy, made from all this, and just little bits and pieces. I was like, oh yeah, and thought that would be involved.
Probably interesting.
That's good. So yeah, the film will hopefully be along those lines as well.
Excellent. I guess that's everyone's points then, isn't it? I think we're all done. Any further things to add before we wrap this up?
I've got a little poem about technological
No.
Go on then. Let's finish. Let's make this a thing. Let's finish with a Mick poem.
Yeah. My name's Mick, and I'm a machine. I don't travel from home, so I'm far more green. Don't worry about me. I'll call if I did. I don't need a sick break. The canteen for me. No cake, no water bills, no going home to sleep. Like I see that I'm more logical than you. I run on electric, not pay. Say hello, redundancy. I can't phone in sick, get shit, so I feel depressed. Well, now I've got your job, your life's reddish. You keep blaming the foreigners and the politicians, while I take your job and you hope for emissions. Because me and my mates are right under your noses. You don't even think about us. You look to us like we're roses. I admire how we take your jobs and think it won't happen to you. I hope you're not in finance, because we're coming for your jobs soon. We're driving your cars, answering your phone calls. We're farming your crops and plastering your brick walls. We're 3D printing houses, body parts and food. We've got sensors in being too. Humans need not apply the century, and that's okay. It's time for you to grow up, let go and play.
Fair enough. round of applause for you, Mick. Have you got that wrote down anywhere?
You what?
Oh, you must have had that wrote down. That was a silly question.
Oh yeah, it was on my screen.
Oh, cool, man. That was good. Right, I guess we'll end that there then, guys. Thank you for coming, Aidan, Mick, and William. Hopefully we can get some more new faces next time. But that's it. About an hour and 12 minutes. So well gone over. Do we know what's next week, Aidan? Do we know what's next week yet?
Oh, I've forgotten what it's called, but it's the last in section 2.
Wait there. I'll find it quickly. We can't leave on a bad note. Let me find it. Oh yeah, there's one thing underneath, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about how bad the layout was. I remember now. Are we doing the solutions and what have you bits afterwards or no?
What do you mean, like section? Is it section 3 onwards?
Yeah, the section 3 is solutions and section 4 is react. Oh, here we go. Questions and the collapse is next week.
Sounds like a good one.
It's about an hour, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, it's an hour long. I'll make sure I watch that in plenty of time, because I was thinking I'm going to have plenty of time to watch this one, but anyway. Yeah, lovely, William. We shall speak to you next week. Thank you very much, guys, if you watched the playback of this. And from Joe, Aidan and Mick, Will. Bye-bye.
Talk about that.
See you later, guys.